Since its release just about 44 years ago, Star Trek the Motion Picture has been an iconic film. Remember that this is the first time we would see Captain Kirk in a Starship Enterprise since the late 1960s. By 1979, Paramount Pictures was looking for a space project that could compete with the success of Star Wars. Initially, they were going to make a television series called Star Trek Phase 2. This would be another adventure of the new-look Starship Enterprise and her crew. However, it would be decided that a film release would be better, and Star Trek the Motion Picture would be released in 1979. I was a kid at the time, and already having loved the Enterprise from the original series, I was just blown away at her beauty when I had seen her at the movie theater. I actually fell in love with her all over again as she gracefully glided from space dock and went into the warp for the first time. Well, first time we had seen it anyway. This film would mark the first time that we would see the Enterprise zoom ahead, then quickly disappear in a little flash when the warp drive would be engaged. A familiar sight now. It would also be the first time that we would see the ship's exterior and registry numbers and markings lit up, a trait that continues to this very day in Star Trek Picard's USS Titan, the NCC 80102-A beautiful starship. One of the main reasons that the cast criticized the film for Star Trek the Motion Picture was for the reason which makes it one of my favorites. Over the years, we have heard Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner say that the Enterprise was a real star of the film. Well, in my opinion, she very well should be and deserves it. How would it look if they were the crew of the USS Grissom? Would that have the same effect? I have a few tidbits about the film you may or may not know. Either way, I hope you enjoy the video and live long and prosper. The film would take 6 years in the planning before the first filming would take place on August 8th of 1978. A total of Paramount's 11 of 32 sound stages would be used for this film. 21 sets would be used, and it would take crews working 24 hours a day to keep up with the heavy filming schedule. The movie would feature 15 different species of life forms other than that of humans. In the USS Enterprise filming model, which would be built by Magic Cam Studios, they would produce two versions of the Enterprise models. The large model was 8 feet long and was used specifically for the dry dock sequences as well as the close-ups of the ship. The 20-inch model was also made for the filming company, and that would be used to shoot the ship at a distance. The filming models would take 6 months to complete. They were made from vacuum-formed plastic, and periodic adjustments were made to the models by Doug Trumbull, who was the special effects director for the film. The space dock used in the film was actually the second one that was built. The first one was built specifically for the television series Star Trek Phase 2. When it was decided to make a motion picture instead, they needed a larger version with more detail that would show up better on the theater's screen. The model, while in dry dock, would be lit using tiny mirrors that would reflect light onto the Enterprise. The light would be concentrated in small areas that looked great on film. Magic Cam Studios also built the Epsilon 9 filming model, which was destroyed at the beginning of the film. In all, 12 of the Katinga-class Klingon battlecruiser filming models would be built for the movie, and some of these models would meet their end as film crews blew them up to see the effects on film. Filming on the Enterprise bridge set while Voyager probe scanned them was an interesting take as well. The light used, the unit was so bright that the actors actually had to wear sunglasses while rehearsing the scenes. Some scenes where Mr. Spock left the Enterprise to attempt contact with Voyager actually had Leonard Nimoy suspended in the spacesuit as he was filmed. In the scenes where Leonard Nimoy was not suspended, he had his feet tied down to the platform that he was standing on to aid in his balance. Speaking of Mr. Spock, when it comes to creating the planet Vulcan, a special process was used. Using the matte process, the foreground would be superimposed over a painted background for depth and effect. It would be the landscape of Yellowstone National Park, which would be used for the planet Vulcan. Although most of the footage from Vulcan was shot at Paramount, some of the scenes were shot in the park. It is worth noting that due to the brightness of Vulcan, because it has 2 suns and no moon, the filming had to be done outdoors in natural sunlight. The most complex set used for the movie was the V'ger set. This set would take 4.5 weeks to complete, and it would be shot on stage 15. The set itself would be built in a 360-degree circle with a total of 9 sections. These sections could be removed individually to accommodate the camera angles. The panes that were lit were made of plexiglass in the V'ger set. During rehearsals of the V'ger scenes, the actors would step on wooden boxes, which would represent the stepping stones that they followed, and before making contact with V'ger. Several lights were used to make the set lit up and illuminated, including special devices that flashed ribbons of light that were projected through the plexiglass panes. Lieutenant Ilia would be from the planet Delta IV. Deltans do not have hair, so the actress Persis Khambatta actually had to have her head shaved clean for the role. It was done each time she would appear in the film. This was done under the supervision of special makeup supervisor Fred Phillips. Star Trek The Motion Picture would be Persis Khambatta's American film debut, and Gene Roddenberry himself would present her with an electric rotary razor to help keep it shaven. Bob Fletcher would be the costume designer for the movie. Fletcher, along with Gene Roddenberry and Fred Phillips, would create the Octurians, a special race that would provide infantry to the United Federation of Planets. Another alien race would be the Saronites. Saronites would need to breathe in chlorine gas, and they needed a special breathing device while on Earth. The Andorians were another species that we had seen, and the Andorians were also seen in Star Trek the original series. The Kenobian species needed larger heads to indicate larger brains that were actually able to communicate over long distances. A special cake would be presented to Robert Weiss, who would have a surprise birthday celebration from the rest of the cast and crew. The largest gathering of actors would be during the REC or Rec Deck sequence. These shots were from when Admiral Kirk needed to gather the entire crew to inform them of the dangers that they were facing, as well as the urgency they needed to depart to intercept it. Paramount would hire over 300 extras for the scene. Shooting the sequences would be finished in one day, and 125 of the extras used were actually Star Trek fans. These fans were invited by Gene Roddenberry and his assistant, Susan Sackett. The magnificent set used for the filming would take hundreds of hours to create, but after only one day of filming, it would be dismantled. Star Trek The Motion Picture would be one that started it all. As of this writing, it would be followed by Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, and Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. The original cast of Star Trek would then pass the torch on to Star Trek The Next Generation in Star Trek VII, Generations. Since 1979, there have been many different Star Trek motion pictures that have been released, including a reboot of the franchise in 2009. There have also been many different offshoots of the Star Trek television series as well. This would include Star Trek The Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and Star Trek Picard.